Okay, hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are back with a first impressions. I haven't done a first impressions in a while, but I received some money for my birthday. That was at the end of July, and I decided to use that money to buy the Blend Bunny Primal palette. I had I wasn't going to buy it, and then I was like, you know what? I really do want to try it, and I do want to do a first impressions and see if it's as good as my other two Blend Bunny palettes. I have the Surge palette and the Dollhouse palette, and I love both those palettes absolutely to death. I almost bought the Blends palette from them just because I love the other Blend Bunny palettes I have so much, but I don't know, it was difficult to justify, and I was like, you know what, I'm not going to. Also because I really wanted to buy the brush set, so I did buy the little brush set that they have. It's 5 little blending brushes. I probably won't, I'll use them today, and I'll continue to use them. I have used all of them since I've gotten them, and I really have been enjoying them. I've been really in the market for small blending brushes, or just small brushes in general, so I really have been enjoying them, but I've only used them a few times, so I mean, so far so good. And yeah, let's just give this a swatchy swatch and do a look as I typically do in my first impressions. This is what the palette looks like. Is this a rainbow palette? I guess it's difficult to argue that it's not. It does literally have Roy G. Biv in here, but I feel like I don't really see this as a rainbow palette. I don't know why. I just think the tones are a little bit different from a typical rainbow palette, and I always love how Blend Bunny does light to dark. Personally, I'm a fan of that, especially in the way that I do my eyeshadow. I know some people want them to switch it up, and I will say, there definitely is some repetition between, or not repetition, but you could argue that, the Surge palette is quite similar to this. Let's see if I could hold both of them up. Yeah. So this is the Surge palette, this is the Primal palette, the new one. I think they're definitely different, but I think you could make the argument that they're too similar to each other for Blend Bunny to have both. I don't know, I think it really comes down to what you prefer and your just preference and stuff when it comes to eyeshadows, and how much you want to have that's repeating or too similar to each other. For me, I think that the tones are different enough and the palette's different enough to warrant having both, but also having similar things, similar shades has literally never stopped me from buying a palette before. So that's me. I like how they have a black. I am in the camp of pretty much never using a matte white ever. I'm not gonna lie. So for me, having this large of a matte white is pretty much completely unnecessary, but ultimately it's always going to come down to personal preference. I know a lot of people feel that way about matte blacks, but I always use a matte black literally every time I do my eyeshadow, so I appreciate that. I also agree with what everyone said about wishing, or not everyone, but what I've seen a lot of people say about wishing that these were just regular pan size and then having more shades. I also agree with that. They could have done different shimmers or whatever, but honestly, I'm excited for this palette. I'm really happy with it. I always love Blend Bunny, and I just let's just get into it. So, okay, zoomed in a little bit. Hopefully that will work fine. So let's just give this a swatch. I feel like most people that I've seen have swatched it in columns. So I'm going to swatch it row by row because I'm trying to be different, and also that's how I always swatch palettes, and maybe it will be helpful to see shades compared row by row. I don't know. All right, let's start with I burnt myself on my straightening iron, so excuse that little burn mark. This is the shade Nectar. It's a very lovely light pink. that's a little bit more saturated than a true pastel. Well, I guess you could argue that it's a pastel, but it has a brightness to it compared to Rome, which is the next shade. That's what I mean. Like, this is a light, really light white-based pink. And then we have Prey, which is a very light yellow, like super light, basically off-white. I really enjoy this though. Next we have Luna, which is a pastel green. This is also very close to white and might be difficult to see on my skin. Then we have Mimic, which is a pastel purpley indigo. And then Winged is the last shade in this top row, which is a light purple. Very pastel, as Blend Bunny usually has, like really light pastel-y shades in their palettes. Second row, the shade Warning is a bright pink. Honestly, yeah, it's a bright pink. Then we have the shade Untamed, which is a bright orange. Love this. Then we have Ray, which is a bright yellow. You build this up a little bit more. Then we have Toxin, which is a very bright green, also very light. The shade Poisonous, oh my god, it's so pretty. Yeah, this is definitely like a purpley indigo shade. And then the shade Exotic, which is a warmer purple in comparison. Oops. I guess there's not really any like blue, so it's not 100% rainbow. Where a lot of people would have blue, they put indigo. And then can I fit this last, I think I can fit this last row of mattes, or the next row of mattes rather, on this arm. So we have the shade Lethal, which is a gorgeous dark like cranberry shade. I love shades like this. We have the shade Huntress. This is a red, like a true red. The shade Soul is a brown. This looks pretty neutral brown actually. Then we have Camouflage, which is a darker green. Although for my preferences, I would like this green to be darker. To me, I would still want like another green to deepen, but we have a black, so you can use a black for that. We have the shade Ink next, which is probably one of the shades that I'm most excited for. Is this shade. It's a beautiful, like, these two are more like periwinkle purpley. This feels like true indigo to me. And then we have the shade Instinct, which is a really deep purple. That's gorgeous. Gorgeous. So these are the first 3 rows of mattes. Again, like rainbow-esque, but not quite fully like your typical rainbow, you know? And then let's do the shimmer row and then the black and the white. So we have the shade Feral. First of the shimmers is okay, let's hopefully make this, yeah, okay, is a bright pink. I haven't historically gotten along super well with Blend Bunny shimmers. They're not my favorite, so we'll see. The next shade is Potent, which is a orangey red, really pretty. Feel very smooth and creamy. This is the shade Regal, super bright yellowy gold. That's really pretty. They feel maybe a little bit brighter and shinier than the other shimmers that I've tried. Next is the shade Slither, which is a forest green. Again, Forest Emerald Green. Again, really pretty. Ooh, then we have the shade Morph, which looks absolutely beautiful. Look at that blue. And then the shade Pheromone, which is a purple. Very jewel toned purple. Gorgeous. So this feels like more rainbow to me. I guess if you took away the pink and put an orange, then it'd be very rainbow, but these are the shimmers. And then lastly, we have the shade Hidden, which is the matte white. Not much to say other than it's a matte white. That looks nice. And then the shade Nocturnal is a matte black. Gorgeous. Alrighty, so I'm going to do the up-close swatches that I typically do when I do first impressions. And then I'm also going to try to do eye swatches today because I posted a comment on my community tab on YouTube and I asked if people found eye swatches helpful, and a lot of people said that they did. So I'm going to try to do eye swatches. I'm going to try to remember to put either like timestamps or do chapters for this video so it's easy to like skip to where you want to go or skip over what you don't want to see. So I'm going to put swatches, eye swatches, and then the look at the end. guys, it is eye swatching time. I'm gonna try to do this not to take too long because it's nighttime and I'm trying to enjoy my night, but I'm gonna do some eye swatches. I've never done this before, so I'm learning as I go, but I basically just have some packing brushes that I'm just gonna use. Most of this palette is matte anyway, but yeah. I don't even have primer on, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think I'm gonna put primer on because the primer that I use all the time is the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base, and that's not really tacky. It's very smooth, so it doesn't really have like lots of grip to it, no more than my regular like eye texture would, like the texture of my skin. So I don't know. I don't use grippy primers or anything like that. So that's kind of my reasoning. So yeah, I'm just gonna go across the palette and I'll probably just speed it up and go from there. And yeah, so the first shade in the palette is a Nectar. It's a light pinky shade, so I'm just gonna pack it on and show you what it looks like, I guess. Okay, honestly, it's quite light, so it's gonna be a little bit difficult to see anyway, but I don't know, it packed on really well, no complaints. The next shade in the palette is the shade Rome, which is a light, like peachy shade, basically. Basically off-white, not gonna lie. I'm really praying that my eyes don't get super, super watery tomorrow. I'm trying to remove these as gently as possible. This next shade is the shade Prey. This is a very light yellow. Yeah, you basically can't see that on my skin tone. And then we have the shade Luna, which is a very light green. I mean, again, built up well, but it's basically like it's very difficult to see on my skin tone. Okay, so the next shade is the shade Mimic, which is a very light periwinkle shade. Okay, if it looks a little bit patchy here, it's not. It's just because I had a little bit of moisture from my eyes watering a little bit. So it just kind of got a little bit deeper here, but it did apply, honestly, very smoothly. It just got a little bit patchy here because of the moisture from my eyeball. So please excuse that. I'll try to be more careful. And then the last shade in this first row is the shade Winged, which is a light purple. Very nice. Again, difficult to see. Okay, you know what? I am going to use a primer for the next rest of the shades just because I feel like with putting micellar water on my eyes and stuff, it might be messing with the like texture of my lids. So I want to give these shadows the best chance that they can. So this next shade is the shade Warning. Oh yeah, 100%. I don't think it really impacted the pastels at all, and also those weren't really gonna show up anyway, but I just put this on over an unprimed eye and it didn't do the shadow justice. So I will be using my NARS primer for the rest of these shades. Again, like I said, bear with me. I'm learning as I go. This is my first time doing eye swatches, so. See, beautiful. This is the blend bunny that I know and love. And then the next shade is the shade Untamed. Again, I have primed with the NARS Smudge Proof eyeshadow base. This is a beautiful orange. Gorgeous. Look at that. So pretty. Okay, the next shade is Ray, which is a yellow. Very nice. And then we have the shade Toxin, which is a bright green. Honestly, just a pleasure. So nice. Okay, the next shade is the shade Poisonous, which is such a beautiful color. Except that did not... Okay, hold on. There we go. Beautiful, gorgeous, so nice. And then the last shade in the second row is the shade Exotic, which is a warm toned purple. Gorgeous. Okay, now we're moving into the third row. The shade Lethal is next, which is this deeper cranberry shade. If there's a little tinge of color, it's just because I'm trying not to rub my eyes too much. So hopefully that's okay. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then we have the shade Huntress, which is a red. These shadows just kind of speak for themselves, I think. Okie doke. Next up we have the shade Soil, which is a matte neutral brown. Beautiful. Look at that. And then we have the shade Camouflage, which is a foresty green. Gorgeous. Okie doke. The next shade is the shade Ink, which is gorgeous. Look at that. Oh my god. Beautiful. Oh my god. Then we have the shade Instinct, which is the last shade in this row. It is a deep purple. Look how opaque that is. That's stupid. Oh my god. So now we've moved on to the row of shimmers. And for these, I'm going to use them on a dry brush first just to see how they are. Because I know some people, you know, just like to use them regular. Then I will wet my brush to see how they go on. So first I'm going to use the shade Feral, which is the metallic pink. Honestly, I would say that applied really well. Dry. Now I'm just going to wet my brush. This is just with water. So that's what it looks like wet, just a lot more opaque. And then maybe I'll take a little bit on my finger. That's what it looks like. So pretty. And now I'm going to use the shade Potent, which is the like orangey metallic. You know what? I'm really actually impressed by how these are going on. So now I'm going to take that shade, spray my brush, layer that over the top. Again, works really well. definitely the best shimmer formula I've tried from Blend Bunny for sure. And then take my finger. Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay, then we have the shade Regal, which is a gold, a very beautiful gold. Oh, so pretty. Now I'm gonna spray this. Look at that. Oh my god, it doesn't even need to be layered. Finger. Look at that, you guys. And then we have the shade Slither, which is a deep green. All right, now I'm gonna spray this and intensify it. Almost has like a blue sparkle to it. So pretty. And then finger. Gorgeous. Okay, next we have Morph, which is such a beautiful I mean, look at that. So nice. Okay, now I'm going to spray this. Glorious. And then take some on my finger. Oh yeah. So pretty. And then finally, last shimmer shade, we have the shade Pheromone, which is a sparkly purple. Now I'm gonna spray this and apply it. And then finger action. Pretty. Okay, last two shades. For my eyes' sake, I'm kind of happy that there's two large shades at the bottom. This eye is a little bit, there's some purple residue, so I'm going to take the white shade on this eye. This is the shade Hidden, and it is a matte white, so let's just see. All right, pretty good, I'd say. That's probably the most that this matte white will ever get used for me, to be honest. And then finally, we have the shade Nocturnal, which is the matte black. All right, beautiful. Now, let's get into the look. Now that I'm looking like an absolute crazy person. Okay, so I really, let's see, maybe I'll zoom in a little bit more. I really want to do something that like warm toned today. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm kind of just going to bebop around the place in this palette and try not to do something super monochromatic. So I'm going to start with the shade Prey. Oops. And I don't typically talk about brushes, but I will just mention when I'm using these Blend Bunny brushes, in case you're curious. I accidentally stamped some black onto my eye, so that's great. And I've primed my eyes using the NARS Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Base, and I have not set my lids, but it's not a super tacky primer. Just in case you were curious, I'm just going to take this Prey shade. It's going to be very obviously light, but I'm just going to use this as my like transition shade first, just to see how she goes. I really like this color though. I feel like I don't have a yellow this light. Okay, so this is where I built it up to. Definitely is like a very light shade, so it's not like super amazing looking right now, but it'll be all good in the end. So now I'm going to take the shade Untamed, which is this bright orange. Beautiful. And for this, I'm going to use the Blend Bunny B5 brush. It's like the biggest brush in the little set. And I'm going to just take this from my outer corner and my crease. Do I want it? Maybe I should do, Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just take this through the outer half of my eye and not bring it into the first part. Maybe I'll do something else there. Maybe I'll do the yellow. That could be nice, perhaps. Okay, definitely not looking super even. I don't know why my right eye just like never wants to work with my shape. It always looks so weird. And my left eye is just like, oh, nice and beautiful. And then this is like a 5-year-old did this eyeshadow. Okay, but we'll fix it later. And now I'm going to take the shade Ray, I think. This yellow here. And put this through the inner part of my crease. Normally I use yellows like this more as like a transition rather than like a full like main kind of crease shade, but I'll embrace it and then I'll just obviously blend this yellow and this orange together. So far so good. Everything's blending really nicely. I would honestly be really shocked if they didn't, especially these lighter shades. So far so good. It's gonna be more of like a little pop of yellow than anything, but that's fine. And then I'm going to take the shade Lethal, which is this burgundy shade, to deepen everything up. But I'm quickly just gonna make sure that my camera isn't gonna do anything bad because it's giving me a symbol and I don't know what that means. Not entirely sure. We'll see. All right, hopefully everything's fine. And for this shade, I'm going to take the B4 brush from Blend Bunny, which is just like a small little blending brush. And just going to build this up, my outer corner and my crease, to create some depth. And I really have been loving these, particularly this B4 and the B1. They're basically just like two little smaller blending brushes that I've been loving for deepening my looks. So, I mean, as usual, it blended beautifully. Any issues that you see or any weirdness is a direct result of me. And I just can't seem to blend properly today. Okay, just don't look at this eye. Anyway, I'm gonna go back into the shade Untamed, which was the orange, and just blend over the, like the top and the edge, because I definitely blended the shade Lethal a lot, the darker one. I just want to bring this orange back. And then I'm going to also dip back into Ray, which was the yellow. This, again, isn't going to be super prominent, but it'll just, I guess, be a little bit different. Okay, so for my lid, I'm going to, I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the shade Pheromone, which is this deeper purple, on the main part, and then take the shade Feral, which was this bright pink, like in the front and then up a little bit. In my experience with Blend Bunny Metallics, I don't love them over a glitter glue, so I'm going to just pick this up on my brush and then wet it, because for me, I found like that's the best way to use these, just in my experience. And I want to give these like their best possible shot. You know, I know what I'm going into. So I'm just going to take this shade Pheromone, which was the purple. And like I said, I'm not going to bring it up as much as I typically do with shimmers in the front. So I'm going to use the pink shade for that. So I'm going to keep that. I'm going to bring it all the way to the front, but I'm just not going to bring it up super high. Like basically just keep it to my mobile lid, which is essentially nothing. And see this, yeah, honestly, if you get a Blend Bunny palette, I would say that just wet your shimmers instead of using like a glitter glue if you're like me and that's how you typically, you know, use your shimmer shadows. I don't know what it is about it that just, they almost kind of dull out. They just don't stick as well to glitter glue. Maybe it's because they're like more of a creamier formula. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm now having no issues applying this with a brush, with a wet brush. And then I'm just going to take the other side of that brush and take the shade Feral, which is the pink. Spray that again. And I'm going to put this, I'm going to layer it. Oh, that's really opaque. I'm going to layer that a little bit over the Pheromone shade, and then you'll just see, but I'm just going to bring that like in a diagonal over the shade. Alright, so we have it looking something like that, and then I'm going to take Pheromone and Feral on either side of the brush, and then just go back and forth between them to blend them together. Okay, and Pheromone is definitely more sparkly than Feral is. Feral's a little bit smoother. Now, I think I have a little bit of fallout just because I was kind of trying to manipulate them a lot, but I'm going to go back into, actually, what am I going to do? I'm going to go back into the shade Untamed, which is the orange. And again, just blend it back. For me, as usual, it's just a lot of going back and forth with shades to try to, you know, get the blend where I want it to be. Go back with Ray now that the shimmers are down. So we've got a very sunset eye going on. Here we go. And then I'm going to take Lethal, which was the deeper shade, and intensify this in my outer corners, blending it into the shimmers. I will go into a black, the black though as well, and then take that through my crease, making sure that the depth and definition is still there. And then I'm going to take a smaller little blending brush and take the shade Prey, which was the very first shade that I used, and very lightly blend over the very edges of the shadow, just to make sure that everything's blended, everything's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to take Pheromone and Feral on my fingers, just like that. Feral is so smooth and shiny, it's really pretty. And then I'm going to just intensify these shades on my lid. I'm gonna bring Pheromone up a little bit higher so you could see it a little bit better when my eyes are open. Now for my lower lash line, I'm gonna keep it pretty consistent with what I have on my top lid just because we have a lot going on. So I'm going to take Untamed in the outer part of my lower lash line, and then take Ray, the yellow, put that in the inner part. And then I just blended both of those out. Now with a Blend Bunny B3 brush, which is just a little pencil brush, I'm going to take this shade Lethal and deepen my lower lash line. And then finally, I'm going to take the shade Prey, which is the very light yellow, and blend my lower lash line out with this. I mean this truly, that I do not know what is going on with my right eye. Okay, please just don't pay attention to it because it is just not the way that I want it to look, but it's what it is right now. So now I'm gonna take the shade Nocturnal, which is this giant matte black, and this is a Blend Bunny B2 brush, which is just an even smaller pencil brush, and use this to deepen my outer corners. Okay, I will blend this better when I put like my highlight and stuff on, but finally for this palette I'm going to take the shade Hidden, which is this matte white. Really exciting. I'm just going to highlight my brow bone with this, and this is all that I will ever use this white for. I can almost guarantee that. There's not really any shade that I want to use for my inner corner from this palette. Most of the shimmers and stuff are darker, and I don't want to do a matte inner corner. So why not? I'm going to dip into the Surge palette, and I'm going to take the shade Flash. This is like a really creamy shade. And I'm gonna spray that as well. This will work well, I think, because it has like a pinkiness to it. Okay, and this is the finished look. I really like it. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. It's like a sunsetty eye, but honestly, in terms of shadow performance, chef's kiss as per usual. I enjoyed it using this palette so far thoroughly. On my lips, I have the NYX lip liner in Nude Truffle with the NYX Suede Matte lip liner in Sandstorm blended out, and then I have the Too Faced Lip Injection Extreme gloss on. This is just clear. I got this as a little like perk or whatever, like from Sephora. It's the first time I've ever used this, and it definitely is stingy, but I love a plumping gloss, so I'm not mad about it. Interesting though, because it's not so glossy. Like, it's glossy, it's nice, but it's not, in terms of shine, the best gloss I've ever used, but it is stinging my lips. I kind of love it though. I don't know. I'm weird. I like plumping glosses. Let me know if you like plumping glosses, because I feel like people are really divided. Anyway, in terms of my thoughts on this palette, I'm really glad that I got it. I think There are some beautiful tones in here. I cannot wait to play with this Indigo Row. It's so pretty. Honestly, I was really pleasantly surprised by the shimmers. I had no issues using them. Like I said before, I would really recommend just using them with a wet brush rather than a glitter glue. A wet brush or fingers is definitely like what I found to work the best. But I will say I think they perform the best out of any of the shimmers that I've used from the Surge palette or the Dollhouse palette. I can't wait to do a 3 looks on it. I will definitely start working on that, doing a 3 looks 1 palette with this palette. And I think if these tones appeal to you, or this color story in general appeals to you, you've never tried Blend Bunny before, I think it's, from the shadows that I've tried, the same exact quality as the other ones that I've used from Blend Bunny, the Surge and the Dollhouse. Like if you didn't want the neon row from the Surge, or you didn't want to use like a neutral palette from the Dollhouse, and you didn't want an all matte palette from the blends, although I haven't tried the blends, like this could be a really good option for you if you were just wondering if it was good or not. I think it is so far. But ultimately, like if you do think that it's too repetitive, it's going to be personal preference based on, you know, color story and stuff. I don't personally feel like it's too repetitive, but that's just my humble opinion. Let me know if you guys got this palette, or is it on your wish list, or are you just saying no to it? I would love to know. And let me know as well if you enjoyed the eye swatches. I can continue to do them, but if people really hate them, then I don't have to do that. Oh, and also the little brush set that I also bought, I think it's good. Like I really like the brushes so far. They're soft. I mean, I'm not like the best brush person. I'm not like the biggest brush connoisseur per se, but I enjoy working with them. I like the shapes. If you were in need or wanting smaller blending brushes, I think these are really great. And I think it was about $30 for the set, so that's not too bad actually when you break it down per brush. The only thing is, what I think is, yeah, this brush, the B1, the ferrule feels a little bit rickety. Like just makes me a little bit concerned that if I wash it after a few times, it might fall apart. I don't know. But anyway, that's just the only thing I noticed. But in terms, like, otherwise, I like them a lot. So, yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really, really do genuinely appreciate it. I would love if you wanted to stick around. I upload 3 videos a week. And I would love to see you in my next one. Bye.